All right, I think we are soon ready to go. I will start making my way to a small introduction. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. I can see that we have participants on different time zones today, and that's absolutely fantastic. I was just before I logged in for this webinar, I was just looking at a small video from one of my mentors in the hospitality industry, Jean-Jacques Gauer. He's a legend of Swiss hospitality for those of you who know him. And he also happened to having been my boss for many years. So someone that really has a lot of meaning for me. And he just wrote a book that is coming out, I think this week, because he's doing all the signing of the books this week in Lausanne, Switzerland. And he just said something that I thought was really funny, and I'm going to introduce today's event, was that he said, Switzerland is a place where you find beautiful hotels, and they made a beautiful country around it. So this is how I'm going to start today's event. So for those who don't know me yet, my name is Alexandra Soriano, and I'm the president of the Swiss Canadian Chamber of Commerce, Ontario. I would like to welcome everyone to this virtual event with Swiss tourism experts. Please note that this webinar is recorded. And just to start, I want to make sure that everybody understands the Swiss Canadian Chamber of Commerce and who we are. Apologies to our members if I repeat myself, but just to give you a sense, we have been around for over 55 years now. And really, we are in the business of trying to help leaders and executives connect and develop business networking. So we are a group, and we're a place where you can go and share ideas and successes. We are a community that goes actually way beyond Toronto, and it's a very giving community. So keep joining our events and engaging with our members. But for now, I would like to welcome our guest speakers for today, Barbara Urfer and Bettina Bülte. A bit of background on Barbara and Bettina. So Barbara is the founder and partner of Gut und Gut Limited, based in Zurich and Rotterdam. She studied hotel management and has been working in the positioning of hotels and the launching of touristic projects in Switzerland and abroad for many, many years. Gut und Gut develops and implements strategies and projects for tourism, leisure, and culture. Well, before founding this company, Barbara founded and managed Swiss Hospitality Communications, a company specialized in hotel strategies and communications. She also spent 5 years at the Economic Promotion Office of Canton of Zug and 10 years in leading positions in 4- and 5-star hotels in Switzerland and abroad. She's a graduate of the Hotel Management School Les Roches and of the School of Business Administration in Zurich. And Barbara was also a member of the board of Radio SRF Idée Suisse in Zug. She speaks 5 languages. Our other guest speaker, Bettina Bülte, is a specialist in building a smooth guest experience, fitting the brand promise. And throughout her career, she gathered extensive experience in optimizing and standardizing front and back of house processes, balancing operational efficiency and optimal guest service. She has written brand and operational standards for several hotel operators and has created an international service quality control framework. During the past 15 years, Barbara has formulated hotel concepts, carried out feasibility studies for mixed-use and single-use assets, and supported destinations in their market positioning, carrying out projects in over 20 countries throughout the EMEA. Bettina holds a Bachelor of Science from the École Hôtelière de Lausanne and an MBA from ESAD Business School in Barcelona. And her work experience has taken her from the Mosimann Collection in London, the Ritz-Carlton in Barcelona. She also worked for the International Olympic Committee in Beijing, PricewaterhouseCoopers in Zurich, and as a senior project manager and owners and representative for retail for Migros in Zurich. Well, Bettina and Barbara, welcome to our webinar. And I think first and foremost, it would be fantastic if you could tell our audience what Swiss Tourism Experts is all about and how you apply hospitality expertise to other industries. Why is it so important? After our presentation today, we are going to have a conversation. So to all of you who are attending this event, please do feel free to join into the conversation by the means of our chat. I am going to read out your questions and ask them to Bettina and Barbara as we move along this webinar, and they will be both super happy to answer your questions. So please don't be shy and go ahead and use our chat. So Barbara and Bettina, I am going to hand it over to you now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Should we say a few words about the Swiss travel experts first?
Definitely, yes.
Maybe Barbara want to say a few words about that, and then maybe I can take the second part of your question, Alexandra.
Sounds good.
Sure. Yeah, we found that Swiss tourism experts because we realized that a lot of people working abroad as Swiss experts in the field of tourism, and then we decided to kind of write them all and ask if they might be interested to do things together and maybe also apply together for big projects. And so we started that in a small group, and we grew now during the last year a little bit bigger. And we keep on meeting each other and promoting each other, exchanging ideas. It's really a platform also for, between people who do basically the same job and kind of support each other. Yeah.
Exactly. It's sort of a collaboration with people whom you sometimes compete against, but I think it's a good joining of forces. And your second part of your question was why is applying tourism or hospitality knowledge to other industries so important? I think, and I will take that up in my part of the presentation. I think hospitality has a lot of things to offer in terms of our focus on clients, our focus on service excellence, and our ability to create an experience and which is tailored to customers or guests, be it that in tourism overarchingly or in hospitality specifically. And I think other industries can learn a lot from the hospitality industry in that regard. And maybe I just jump over and start with my part of the presentation. That is as well what I wanted to take up today. Sort of lessons from the hospitality industry and how to create a value-driven customer experience. And for me, I especially wanted to broaden a little bit the topic because I'm sure we have so many participants today who are not necessarily in the hospitality or tourism industries anymore. So I wanted to sort of draw parallels of the industries and give a few impulses or ways to think about a few things. We have actually, although we are focused on improving hospitality operations or tourism destinations, we have in the past, my business partner and me, we have had a few projects where we have helped companies of other industries in shaping their customer experience. So on the one hand, Gary, my business partner, was heavily involved in shaping the client experience of PricewaterhouseCoopers, of PwC, so one of the big four. And currently, actually, we're involved in creating and improving the customer experience of a dental implant company. So very, very different compared to hospitality. So we do have a insight into that, into how to transform those skills or transfer those skills, better said. So why is that important? Why is it important, or in our view, important to create a value-driven customer experience? Actually, two reasons. One, because often the product that we all create, be this the overnight stay for a hotel, or be this the dental implant, as I said before, or be this the audit of one of the big four, that is the product that we're selling. But very often that's not necessarily what the customer or client is valuing the most. Very often what the customer is valuing the most, for example, for a professional services firm like PwC or any of the other, Deloitte, KPMG, etc., is the sound sleep at night. I know my figures are fine. Somebody has audited my figures. I can sleep. I reduce my risk exposure. Or it could be, I have an impartial decision-making basis now. I have a third party who tells me which options I have, which advantages, disadvantages, and now we can decide. Or for the dental implant firm, just to draw some examples, yes, they're selling the dental implant, but actually the value for the customer is confidence, and my smile is the same color, all my teeth are the same color, so I have much more confidence. So although I sell a certain product or a certain service, the value very often is created emotionally. So that's the first reason why this is important. The second reason why we think it's important is all our customers in most of our industries, be it product or service that we're selling, are going through an experience. First of all, they're going through the normal marketing funnel, through the AIDA, the attraction, interest, desire, action funnel. And then, of course, especially in the hospitality industry or in tourism, they're experiencing our product and our service while they're consuming our product. So this is a whole experience of our customers, be it guests, tourists, or other customers. And very often, it is not proactively, or that experience is not proactively curated or managed. And we always say, if you want loyal customers or loyal guests, you need to create an emotional bond and a relevant experience. So you need to create relevant value, the end product, and you need to create that experience that touches your customer emotionally. Even if you're selling a product and not a hotel bed, etc. So which other industry is better positioned than the hospitality industry, who is doing that over and over every day, to give some impulses to other industries? And today I would like to share three main pillars of how to think about this topic, be it if you're working for a company which sells a product or which sells a service, or even a hospitality or tourism entity. So the first pillar that I would like to highlight is what I said before. First sort of job or activity is to understand how are we actually creating value. So I understand I have a product or a service that I sell, but what is the value that I actually create for my client or for my customer? And I need to understand that this value sometimes is different for different segments. I have segment A with value A, and I have segment B with value B. And sometimes it's even a different value or a different needs that I satisfy for the same segment, but at different times. Would like to take an example here. So for example, if we're imagining a scene at the airport at morning at 7 o'clock, Toronto airport, and the employee sees a rushed business traveler, the needs of that person are pretty clear. It's efficiency and it's speed. So they want to have it very, very fast, their experience. Compare that with Sunday or 5 days later, Sunday, same person is walking through the airport with the kids and with his wife, and then maybe enjoying the international atmosphere of the airport. Very different needs, same segment, same person, but very different needs. So you would want to start and think about, how can I create value for that person at that point in time? What is their biggest need at this point in time? And what do I need to do to create that for them at this point in time? How do you do this? I mean, how do you think about that? And there I would like to steer your attention to probably something that you have seen before. That's the value proposition canvas by Osterwalder. So same person who has come up with the business model canvas. And that is a tool that you can use if that's something that you're thinking about. That's a tool you can use to gather your thoughts, to put your thoughts on paper, and to create transparency in your organization. So on the left-hand side, you have what you offer. So that's you, that's the description of your products, of your services, of the gains that you create, so the needs that you solve, like the sound sleep, what I said before, or the reduced risk, or the confidence boost, etc. And the other point is, what problems do you solve? Maybe you solve a knowledge gap, or maybe you solve a time crunch, etc. And on the right-hand side, you have your client profile. So what does your client want to achieve? You have their jobs, that's just how it's called. So the jobs to be done, what they would like to do, what do they expect, and what are their pain points, and what are their gains? And so for when you're thinking about, how do I create value for one certain segment, or one certain segment at a certain point in time, that's a good way of thinking about it. How do my product, services, gate creator, pain mitigators fit with my clients' wishes and their needs? So that's the first pillar. First, understand, how do we create value, or what is really next to the product that I'm selling, or the service that I'm selling, what is really the value that I'm creating for my clients? Then the second pillar is actually all about the customer. So actually, and we're talking, Gary and I, we're talking about that quite a lot, because we're fascinated by the fact that there are brands actually that people, or those logos that people tattoo on their arms or somewhere else. So, so I mean, Harley Davidson or Apple, they have apparently done so well in their relationship with their clients, that apparently a whole segment of their clients do not feel that this is weird to tattoo a brand logo on their body. And when we were talking to PwC at a certain point in time, we were asking, yeah, so what would PwC need to do that people tattoo PwC on their arm? And everyone's like, yeah, nobody would ever do this. This is impossible, etc. And I mean, yes, of course, it's a far away, but it's a mind game of playing. So what would we need to do that people would do this? Because I'm sure 20 years ago or 25 years ago, nobody would have thought that a technology company would reach that level. So the question here becomes, how do you need to treat your customer or your client, and what feelings do you want to evoke in them, that they feel valued, that they feel seen, that they feel understood? What are the values that you have at your core with your brand, and how do you need to communicate those, that this client feels that this is a perfect match? And another question, or another game, or thinking exercise, for a lack of a better word, that one can do is thinking about, what if we reduced our fee or our price for our product by 10%? So we're only asking 90% of our fee. And we ask the client to pay that 90% and whatever more they want for the experience that they have received. And think about, what would I change if we were to introduce that in 2022? What would I change now in 21? And what would I make better in our customer service that this actually is a good idea. So what are the top 3 things that I would change? I think those questions sort of help to raise awareness on those questions and trigger some of the thoughts. So second pillar, how do you treat your customers? What are the emotional, what are the emotions that you want to evoke? Third pillar, clearly that must come when we're talking about hospitality, is how do you treat your employees? And this is something when I'm thinking about hospitality, it's if you want to if you want to reach the goals of your board and they give a clear direction, I think it's very important that the people who look in your clients' eyes every day and shake their hands and share a laugh, etc., that those people, sort of your frontline employees, are treated in a way and are given the tools that they need to do their job very well. So it actually all comes down to how do you want to treat, or how do you treat your employees, and how should an employee feel when they're saying that they work for your brand or your corporation. And turning back to the example that I mentioned before with the businessman rushing through the airports on Tuesday morning, and then coming back on Sunday in a more leisurely fashion, you would want your employee to be able to, when checking in that client, you would want your employee to be flexible and to understand, oh, this person now has a different need compared to 5 days ago. So you would want your frontline employee to, first of all, be motivated to understand that change in need. Second of all, you would want your employee to be flexible enough to change their behavior. And third of all, you would want your employee to feel empowered to do that and change their behavior. And there, I'd like to draw your attention to Ritz-Carlton, who has done that very well, even better before they were bought from Marriott in '98. But I think they're still good today. But what they have done very, very well is, I think, a few things, but just a few snippets, is immersion into their brands. So people say it's brainwashing, and I think I would agree. I still remember the 20 values, and I worked for them 12 years ago. So you would be immersed in their brand. You would be brainwashed in terms of their values, in terms of their credo, and in terms of their experience. Even me as a trainee, I was able to spend a night in the Ritz-Carlton in Barcelona, where I worked, to experience firsthand before I sell that product. The second point is the empowerment that frontline employees get. And as well here, even me as a trainee, I had the opportunity to, if I wanted to, spend 2,000 euros every day for going the extra mile for a guest. That, of course, means a lot of trust in your employees and empower them to do that, to go the extra way. And of course, then the important thing is recognition, celebrate successes. If your employees are behaving according to your values, celebrate this openly and recognize that, meaning create an incentive structure that doesn't just say that this is a value of you, but this is as well, it's monetarily backed up. And then another sentence that we hear a lot in hospitality: hire for attitude and train for skill. Train how somebody manufactures something or creates something is easier compared to training an attitude and training intrinsic motivation, for example. So that's why this is an important factor. So in conclusion, you need to treat your employees how you treat your clients or your guests. So those are the few things that I wanted to share with you. In conclusion, creating a value-driven experience is vital, since we're all creating an experience. And the question is just, do you proactively create it, or do you leave it up to chance? And the three pillars would be: know what value that you create. You have a product and a service, and you have a value that you create. And proactively design the experience of your client, and proactively design the employee journey of your frontline employees so they can deliver the board's aspiration. That would be my input. And now I'm handing over to Barbara.
Thank you, Bettina. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about a complete different topic, because I'm also originally from the hotel business, as Alexandra mentioned it, and I'm still close to it, but I went more into tourism consulting. So I'm going to be talking about the development of destinations in Switzerland and abroad. As a short overview, I will introduce you to the placemaker approach, which we developed. And then I will show you 6 examples of placemaking all over the world, including Switzerland, of course. Probably you've heard of it, placemaking. This is a concept which was developed in the 1960s. It was actually designed for places in public squares, places such as squares. And the idea was that to design a place for the ecologic, economic, and social components to be very closely involved, and the people who actually are community members living in those near those places in these cities were involved from scratch to develop those places. That means it's a multifaceted approach. It's not only one, for example, we put one coffee shop to a place. It's like an approach whereas you involve a lot of different things in the same place. And this, at the end of the day, it creates much greater value for the community and it's for its overall well-being. It's a holistic experience, and it's an ongoing circular process of analysis, evaluation, implementation, and monitoring adaptation. I will show you this in a picture afterwards. And therefore, working in close contact with the local population when developing and making this placemaking, actually in cities, a project is only sustainable if the local population benefits from it in terms of work, welfare, and also enjoyment. And this approach we took for tourism and applied it in different touristic destinations. Perfect timing, Bettina, thank you. So this is our approach. Sometimes we kind of develop projects on, say, on the green meadow. We just have an idea, we go to a place and we say, why don't we do this here? But most of the time we are called by destinations and then they ask us to kind of see what's there first. So you analyze what's there and you kind of build up on what's there and kind of include new ideas and collect new, combine new ideas to the existing ones. And here, as I said before, it's really important that we involve the local community, and that means making workshops when we have to try to find out what the destination wants, touristic destination. We do workshops together with the local population, with potential guests, with existing guests, with even the priest of the place or the teacher of a destination. But of course, mainly with the stakeholders such as the mountain railway or the touristic offers such as hotels, restaurants, or ski teacher. We all take them. They all join this workshop, so we get all these different views, so that we can develop a very broad picture, and at the end of the day we want to have them all on board. So we really want them to join this new development and not only develop an idea on paper and which can't be put into practice later on. That's absolutely vital. There we're a bit and normally, yeah, unusual consultants. Sometimes it's only paper which is being produced and then it's not being put into practice, and we always try to push very hard that things are really actually going to be put into practice at the end of the day. And that means we always try to be involved also in the implementation. So also opening up the places, or even helping them with the management, helping them with the marketing, teaching the stuff, trying to really get there where what we in theory were thinking about. So that's basically our placemaking approach. And now I'm going to show you a few examples. First of all, we traveled to Colombia. This is a upcoming destination. As you know, in 2016, they had a new peace agreement. Now it was a bit getting more complicated again because of Corona. But it's a new touristic possibilities came up for the countries, and under these new conditions, which was previously much more difficult, the country actually gets on the touristic map. And so we were invited with the task to develop offers in 2 different regions in Colombia. One region was Yopal in the province of Casanare, and the other one was in Mocoa in the region of Putumayo, that's near Ecuador. And yeah, so this offers, we always had to think about, put on the head of the international tourist. Would an international tourist actually like that, the way the offer is now, and what has to be done that the international tourist is going to come to Colombia? And the client was Swiss Contact. Probably you know Swiss Contact is an independent non-profit organization who promotes social and ecological development in developing and in emerging markets. And we always be the tourist experts, but we always take partners along with us who have different competences. For example, there was a travel and an adventure specialist joining, who checked out all the adventure offers already existing and gave them ideas how to change it, how to promote it better, and so on. And also an ornithologist, because there are a lot of birds areas, nature areas with birds in Colombia. And so they had brought in their knowledge in all those areas. It was a very close cooperation with the chambers of commerce and the service providers in each destination of the 2 destinations where we went. We gave them a lot of, this one more point, Bettina, thanks. We gave them a lot of recommendations, myself mainly in the hotel business. Sometimes it's really surprising how basic the questions are, which kind of floor they should lay. For example, they think everything that is modern and maybe plastic or looks modern to them is what the tourists want, but it's exactly the opposite. The tourist is looking for the original, maybe a nice stone floor, and not maybe the plastic one, but they think it's modern because it's new to them. So sometimes it's really interesting where they stand, and also in terms of consulting in the field of hygiene or facility maintenance or construction, questions in constructions. It's very surprising where they stand sometimes. Yeah, then we also, for example, the Grand Tour of Switzerland, maybe you know that offer. That's where you can travel from one place to the other. And it was mainly also about linking the regions, different regions with each other, so they can connect also touristic offers, and it makes like one entire nice offer to the tourists traveling there. Yeah, the main challenge, of course, it's a difficult situation still, because Colombia doesn't have a very good reputation, and so they're still a bit fighting with that. That picture shows a group of students in a very remote place. There was a guy actually swimming on his horse passing the river. And it was really adventurous because he could hardly pass. It was a very strong flow of the river, and it was a big show. So they're very excited about that. Now we go back to Switzerland, or we come to Switzerland. Merely Alp tourism. We had to develop a strategy for there. That's near where I live, actually. It was about an analysis of overall touristic situation in Merli-Alp. That's a small place, especially in the winter. It's a nice ski resort. very, very small, but mainly for families. And we had to develop ideas what they could do to kind of keep the mountain railway, because it's very expensive and it's always less snow in the winter. So they had to think about what could they do in the summertime to have an offer also in the summertime. And actually we developed for them mountain bike park for children, for youngsters. And but it was very difficult because there's so many different parties involved. For example, the nature conservation group, and they're really afraid of, you know, animal protection, that some, you know, when you build a mountain bike trail, it could be very bad for nature. And there's a lot of lobbying and discussing what can be done and what not. And we experienced that quite a lot in Swiss destinations, that not so many things can be done as tourism would like. But it's always a matter of finding a good solution for everybody. That's the Murli Alp in summertime. Then we had a project in Albania. It was about agritourism, and it was about establishing partnerships between small businesses who had, for example, it's agritourism, maybe cheese making, or maybe a few cows, or very rather small places, and they rented out like an extra room or an extra place to host guests. And it was, they wanted to have the experience from the Swiss, how we deal with that here. And we went there several times. They came here with a study trip and to have a look, for example, as a fishing farm, how we set that up here, or how can you combine cheese making with accommodation, then horse riding, and packaging and promotion of local specialties and handicrafts. And we gave them a lot of ideas how we do it here. The problem was a bit that they always say, good for you, you have a lot of money here, you can do everything, and for us we can't do that. But oftentimes it's just showing them how you can do it also with little money, just having a good idea, and make little steps in setting it up and kind of offering it, starting from there. And I think it was quite valuable for them to have this information from Switzerland. Yeah, that shows farmer lady. Exactly. Now we go back abroad to Armenia, in Nagorno-Karabakh. That was a big task we had. We were originally, was the idea to build a luxury resort, and then we convinced them, no, we want to do something more sustainable. And at the end, it was actually a big project for a center of education and sustainable tourism. And that was in a very difficult area, because the ceasefire was actually cancelled as when we had everything ready to build. Basically, it was a huge project, you know, involving people going back to that area and having work there, and having, you know, the hotel. We could have had like education program for vocational training, then working with a farmer close together who delivered the products to the place, and also offering all what is around the hotel in terms of touristic offers such as mountain biking, horse riding, things like that. And so we had this really big project, and unfortunately now we couldn't realize it because it's way too dangerous to go there for anyone at the moment. And it's the last few days I heard it's just started again, the war, basically, a really bad situation. But it's actually a dream project, and it could be realized in other places maybe as well. Because everything is linked together. It's just from scratch, you can set up everything. In Switzerland, we don't have that anymore. Here is possibility because most of the things are built already. Yeah. That's a funny picture. It shows you shows a church which is actually empty because there's sheep living in the church. You don't see that from here, but we had a workshop on these plastic chairs in the middle of nowhere, outside near this half destroyed church, and it kind of shows you also that it would have been very nice to build up again things, and it's very sad it's not possible. Then we had last year a big project in Georgia. The difficult thing was we couldn't go there because of COVID. And it's from GIZ, German Society for International Cooperation. And it was 2 areas we were, and it was actually all about setting up clusters also in 2 different areas, in terms of clusters in the fields of food and wine, accommodation, and cultural heritage. And so the idea was that small businesses clustered together and then have common things they can do together, like promotion or packaging of their products and services. I move on now a little bit because otherwise we have no time for discussion. That gives you an idea of the handicraft in Georgia. And the last example I would like to talk about is our Green Marathon in Zurich. That's a project we had the idea, and we developed the whole process from the idea to promoting this idea, finding the money, the financing, and actually putting it into practice. That means it was a 42-kilometer route being set up in Zurich where you can go running, and it all connects the green spots within Zurich. And it's all within the city, and to show how green the city is, and to give the guests or the tourists and also the locals a nice possibility to go running. And we have often events on this route, and it's a real asset to the city of Zurich. This shows you the route. Okay, so you probably think now, what does placemaking in South America, strategic development in the Swiss Alps, agritourism in Albania, planning an eco-village in Armenia, building clusters in Georgia, and the jogging route in the biggest Swiss city have in common? It's all about placemaking. It's all about going in a place and developing it, looking what's there and setting it up and working very, very close together with the community. So it has a sustainable, it actually in the long run, it actually stays and is being implemented and can live kind of, So that's the nice thing about placemaking. It really is sustainable. It stays there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Bettina and Barbara. That was indeed very informative and actually really original. I mean, I personally love that Green Marathon example, and I think it could probably give some ideas to Toronto. We have a beautiful green belt and a lot of paths that are currently used more for walkers, early morning runners, and cyclists, and probably there's something that could be done there. I do like the idea. It was also wonderful to go from talking about Harley Davidson to going to the dentist and ending up in Albania on holidays. So I think your examples were a true reflection of how hospitality expertise is useful and almost necessary in nowadays times, and especially with the pandemic, how can we make this work for all those companies that still have to survive and thrive in those difficult times. So thank you so much for those examples. It was really good. I'm going to go and check if there's any questions. So There is one question from Shelley Waite, and I'm going to read it out loud, but I have the feeling that it's probably something that will be best addressed by the Swiss consulate. Anyways, so Shelley is traveling to Switzerland this holiday season. She's trying to obtain a COVID QR code for Switzerland, but have been directed to the canton of Geneva. Can you please advise me on which cantons I need to apply for a COVID QR code? It is not clear which cantons have their own COVID QR certificates. Okay, so I'm just going to take on this question. So indeed, if you are fully vaccinated in Canada and you would like to travel to Switzerland, the rules have changed very recently. And if you want to be able to access restaurants and any kind of public events or exhibitions in Switzerland, you're going to have to convert your Canadian QR code into a Swiss QR code. I think it costs 30 Swiss francs to get this done. And indeed, it is managed by the cantons where you're going to reside, where you're in Switzerland. The best advice I can give you, Shelley, is to go on the Consulate of Switzerland website, the Consulate of Switzerland in Montreal, basically, and you can just get all the information from their website or call them directly. All right, well, thank you for your response, Shelley. I wish the government of Switzerland were as well organized as your presenters. Excellent presentation. I'm a lawyer and have learned from your presenters. Fantastic, thank you so much. That's wonderful to hear. Okay, Shelley, you can always contact us at the consulate as well. If you have more questions about your travel to Switzerland, we're more than happy to help you. All right, so please feel free to ask your questions to Barbara and Bettina in the chat on this on this presentation. I do have a few questions for you actually while we wait for more questions. And the first question that I'm going to ask you is the following. Swiss tourism experts, this is what it's all about today. And it's also all about getting better results. In the end of the day, I think we want the customers to be happy and the shareholders to be happy and the employees to be happy. So this question is probably for you, Barbara. What is your secret recipe to that?
Yeah, I think what's very nice is that we are a pool with people with different backgrounds. And so we have hotel management, we have tourism in general, people who have a lot of knowledge in financing, in sustainability, yeah, of course, hotel management, everything. So the vocational field, it's really broad, and I think that's really the secret recipe, so that we can kind of have whenever we need persons for specific fields, we have almost, not all, but a lot of different possibilities. And I think it's all about pooling these people and pooling these personalities and kind of building the atmosphere of trust, so that they know, okay, they're the specialists for this and for this and for this, and we get the replies that we wish to get or we hope to get. And so I think this is really helpful, because if you wouldn't have these different backgrounds, then you have to search for this and you have to search for that, and it's much more time consuming as well for the clients.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. We have a question from Sandra Leber regarding placemaking. So that's for you, Barbara, as well. So really interesting in international projects, and I like the sustainability approach. So how do you connect with these international hotel projects early on?
The international projects early on.
So how do you get in touch with those tourism destinations or projects, do they reach out to you? Do they find you, or do you reach out to them? How do you make yourself known, and how do you engage with them at first hand?
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're in close contact with all these international organizations. So and now they know us. So it's sometimes also international tenders that we look at, and then we apply. Replying to those kind of tenders, but oftentimes, yeah, they already know kind of what we can deliver, so they kind of write to us. But it's yeah, maybe you also have reply that, Bettina. Your experience.
I think you're right. I think it's all about creating awareness in the marketplace about yourself. And I think, I mean, good and good, you have a very good track record in the past 15, 20 years of doing that. And then when you have done a successful project, it's mouth to mouth, and then people start coming to you. And as well, I think there are only that many companies who can pull off such a placemaking or destination creation service. I think the industry is relatively small, so one knows each other, and it helps, you know, having good contacts with the NGOs like Swiss Contacts you mentioned, etc., who are out there, who are in those destinations, and think about how can we elevate the economy in those destinations, and then come back and look for a partner. I think that helps. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And reference is always the best.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Then they know you, and they trust you, and they know you did a good job, and they will ask you again, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And I guess it becomes a chain after a while, right? People get to know you, and then they talk about you, and the word of mouth works as well.
Yeah. And at the end, it's the trust again, right? They need to trust you. They need to trust your professional, that if you can do it, that you have the skill. And it's always better when they like you as well. You know, it's like, oh, it's actually, this person is good professionally, but I like Barbara, you know, it was fun. And then people call you easier compared to the other way around. Yeah.
And it brings me to another question, talking about sustainability. And I think it all comes down to a purpose. And I think companies nowadays, they're really trying to see what kind of purpose or added value they bring to customers, but to the society in general. So, you know, how can you reinforce the purpose at really every level of the organization? Is this something that you tackle when you speak to your clients? How they can really implement this sense of purpose, and you know, what is their inspiration? How do they make themselves unique? And yeah.
We do. We do and have done previously in projects. I think that's really what sets one part of companies apart from the other. I think at the end, it's taking time to design your purpose and really think, what are our values? But I think the much more important part is to actually go through a cultural transformation, train your staff, and not only have those values on the wall. I think Enron, I'm sure I say it wrong now, but I think Enron had trust and integrity and something like this on the wall. So, I mean, this just shows it's not enough that you have this paper from a consultant and it's just in the drawer, right? You need to find ways with your HR department, with your training, with your recruitment, with how you live your culture every day, that your frontline worker and your CEO can say, those are our values, and what does that mean? How do I behave? How do I talk to people? How do I talk to my peers? How do I how do I work, how informal, how formal, etc. So I think it needs to seep through your culture. And for that, I think we're specialists, and Barbara, happy for you to compliment, but just for talking about us, we're specialists in sort of creating that overlay, but then somebody else would need to come and really tackle the training, recruitment, HR aspect for that, because I think that's where this all anchors.
Excellent. Well, that makes me think a little bit of that new show on Netflix. Probably some of you have seen it, Ted Lasso. And for those of you who have seen it, there's a big sign in the locker room of a soccer team that says "Believe," and everyone is reaching out to that message. Okay, we have another question in our chat from Herbert Thiel. How can you overcome some of the poor customer experience when calling a company and listen then to press 1 and 2 and wait forever, or you will be redirected?
Yeah, I hate that. It's now, I wonder, is it meant from a client perspective or from a company perspective? But I think from a client perspective, I think, and I try to discipline myself there as well, it's to, I mean, the ultimate punishment is to leave the company, right? And go to a different provider, if you can do that. But of course, companies are very clever these days, and sometimes they lock you in, right? So it's very hard to leave. I think I complain in a helpful manner, not in a bratty manner, but in a helpful manner. I think sometimes helps. And I think what really helps is online reviews. So as well there, I still think it needs to be tasteful and helpful and shouldn't just be a bashing. However, if there is a poor customer service, putting that in a review, first of all, letting the company know, and second of all, which is stronger even, letting new customers know, because they see those reviews, has a very big impact. So I think from a client side, that's what I would try to do. And I think from a, hopefully the companies start to understand that there are different experiences out there, and make that change.
Thank you so much, Bettina. So we have another 2 minutes left. If you have an additional question, please feel free to write it down in the chat or the Q&A. Is there any more questions? There doesn't seem to be. So I'm going to have one last question to both of you, Barbara and Bettina. Is there one last message that you want to leave for our audience today?
Maybe I can start. I think it's really important that you try things in a different way. Not, for example, we do that when we do workshops. We try not to go in a boring, small, narrow hotel meeting room. Instead, we try to go outside maybe, or do part of the workshop in a mountain railway, or in an igloo, or in a storeroom of a grocery shop, or whatever. We just try to do things in a different way. And also when thinking about new offers, kind of put things together which were not together before, kind of combining, make unusual combinations in the offers, which people or customers are surprised when you do that, and they have never seen that in this way before. So this is a possibility to stand out and to differentiate from your competitors. Well, that was about 1 minute, I think.
Yeah, my message would be, keep being interested in your client. I think it be authentically curious about their needs and wants, and try to fulfill those in any industry. And I think with the world getting smaller with globalization, I think that will prevail, and people start to notice, oh, I'm actually being respected or seen as an individual. And I think there are so many ways with digitalization on how to interact with your customer, and if you're interested in them, then that will prevail, and you will see it at the end in your figures. But I think that's where it should start, and it will seep through.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Bettina and Barbara. That has been extremely informative and a great presentation. There's just one more comment in the chat that from Thomas Aron, a very interesting presentation. Thank you. I have another call coming, so I need to leave. Will we get the presentation somehow so that we can read through the slides at our leisure? So yes, the presentation is recorded, like I mentioned at the beginning, and we are going to show the recording on our website at swissbiz.ca. So you will be able to see this presentation again if you missed part of it or you want to get back to it. Thank you everyone for having attended this webinar. It's always nice to see you, even if we're not in person yet. But talking about in person, we are planning a raclette event for the Swiss Canadian Chamber of Commerce here in Toronto, which will take place on the 12th of December at Her Father's Cider Restaurant on Harbord Street, so downtown Toronto. You can find all the information and the registration form on our website at swissbiz.ca. And of course, we would love to see you there. There's limited seating, also because of all the restrictions due to the pandemic. So it is better to register rather early. We know how good raclette is. And we really hope that we'll be able to see many of you there. At least those of you who are in Toronto right now and who can join us. Bettina and Barbara, I believe you're having raclette and fondue all the time, so of course maybe less special for you, but we'll be happy to have it here. All right, so this is it for today. Thank you again all for attending, and we look forward to seeing you soon again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.